it's these conversations that remind me of my motivation to do what it is I'm doing on a daily basis, and it's powerful. I can't get this from a 9 to 5, you know.
This is not an interview. There is no format. This is simply a conversation about life.
One of the observations I've made uh post is, a lot of artists, and it's not even necessarily tied to music, but a lot of people are just thinking everything's just going to go back to the way it was. And I think the strong reality is that it's not. And if it does, it's going to take time from the time there is an actual or something dramatically changes
Mhm.
that enables that.
Yeah.
You got to look to history about these things, right? And it's inevitable that it's going to be a different place.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's interesting to think about because I think this is where you start to discover like what kind of artist you want to be as well. Because
Yep.
I mean, even before this happened, obviously there are people. There are some artists who just refuse to engage with anyone on online or whatever, and think that you can do things the way you used to do them before, where you didn't have to say anything. You could be just a name on a record. No one has to know what you look like. No one's interested in, you know what I mean, like
Right.
anything other than your music. And I think a lot of people suffered because of this as well. They might have even still been making great music, but as we've as things have evolved and people get so much more interested in you as a person as well, and they want to hear your thoughts on other things, and you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
this really started to play a part in the whole industry as well. So if you don't want to be a part of that, that's even going to be a struggle for you, like and so this is just another extension of that. Is um I had I think I remember reading an article or seeing a video or something where um someone was saying that like most successful people um have 7 streams of income.
Yeah.
And and I think this is what one of the things we learned, that you can't just have one thing that you do and you depend on this solely, and as soon as you lose that one stream, it's over for you're starting from ground zero almost, or you
Absolutely.
or you become like beholden to whatever is interfering with you being able to do that one thing, so um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really really interesting to get to this point, and and then if you don't, I mean, I guess obviously some people are afraid or intimidated by doing. I don't want to show my face, or I don't want to talk to people, or why do they care what I have to think, or you know what I mean? And that's one side of it, but then there's other people that are almost just stubborn about the whole thing, and
Oh, yeah.
then complain about it, and then it's just like, hey man, this is just what it is. Like, what
You're
you
like, it's
know,
the like get in or get off. Like um, it's really come down to that, and that's just the function. Do you remember, like, I remember seeing some of this as a kid, like in the '80s when they first started introducing like drum machines,
hmm
and I remember seeing like news reports of studio drummers saying this is absurd, this is gonna ruin music, and like whole articles and interviews and TV specials being made about this argument, the introduction of a new tool. And then what was interesting, I forget. I think the group is. I want to say it's Chicago.
Mm,
Yeah, I think the group is Chicago. There's a interesting documentary, and I think the drummer in that group, he was unable to play to a click track
mm,
because they were introducing like drum machine sounds and
okay.
stuff, and then they let him go
Oh
as
wow.
a result. So and then fast forward and we listen to today's music, the people that are around, like even great musicians like Lionel Richie and you know Prince and Michael Jackson. These are guys who play, with the exception of Michael Jackson. But let's look at Prince.
Hmm.
He played over 20 different instruments,
Hmm.
and I would say he was one of the first to really absorb and consume the Linn drum machine
Hmm.
and put it into his sound, so much so that it is his sound.
Hmm.
Like you hear Prince, you hear that Linn drum machine, and you're like, okay, I know that's a Prince track coming
Right.
in.
Right.
But had he had been the musician, like, well, I dare not put in
Mhm.
drum machines in my compositions. Like, you know what I mean? Like we would have missed out on so much.
Yeah.
And this is my point to those musicians that are sort of struggling with this new world of doing things post or in um, is to embrace it. You know, I've always thought I always want to feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'll be honest, like because I know the growth is in that. I always There's a time where I always love to play it safe. Ooh, I don't want to do that. I want a paycheck every 2 weeks, or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, when you're put in positions that are uncomfortable, you get super creative. At least that's my
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I would never disagree with that. I think this is absolute. I would say this is a fact. I don't even think it's an opinion. I think this is a fact. When you think about the fact of um, even getting a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever, it kind of limits where you can go, and even to just take a slight chance on something, you know what I mean, could be a whole life changing event. But
Yeah,
if you don't even try to, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, it's I was raising my hands there because I recently had this discussion with someone about how tragic the perception of a 9 to 5 actually being a secure thing.
Mm,
It is probably the most insecure thing when it comes to living life.
mm-hmm,
And again, I, I'm only speaking from my perspective. I've done the 9 to 5. I've been in corporate boardrooms. I've done that. And as I look back on that experience, I'm so glad that I got out of it because I feel like everything I do and a result of that is a direct, reflection of my commitment and investment into myself,
mm-hmm.
rather than let the waves of chance,
Yeah.
being in a quote unquote secure job,
Mm-hmm.
kind of move my boat throughout the waters as wherever it pleases,
Right,
because
right,
you're ultimately not in complete control.
right.
So, because the context of the discussion was, what would I be, you know, would I still be working 9 to 5 if happened? And I definitely know if I still doing 9 to 5 when this stuff landed like full on back in March, it would
Mm-hmm,
definitely have been the thing where I'd say, okay, I got to get into this music stuff because,
mm-hmm.
I don't want to feel like I've missed an opportunity to really influence the outcome of my life,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
my legacy.
yeah.
That's important to me.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
pretty much when you're working a 9 to 5, um, you're working on someone else's legacy. Actually, and it
exactly.
was it's. Did you ever read the book Temp? Do you know this book Iceberg Slim?
Yeah, I know Iceberg Slim, but I haven't got my hands on the book.
You have to. You don't have to, but because I'm going to give you the quick rundown, at least of what I got out of this book. Because obviously he's talking about his life as a pimp and like
Mhm.
how he got into it and all, and he's giving these instructions on all these different ways to be a pimp. Um, and yeah, this book is crazy, man, and I can understand why people read this book, and it makes you understand so much about life, and human nature in a way. Because when I thought about it, I was like, I can see this is actually exactly how the corporate world works. Like, and not even just the corporate world, but if you like when you work for someone else, it's like it gives you this. I mean, you have to think about the it being our nature to work super hard for other people, much more
Mm.
than we ever would for ourselves. And and like the pimp game kind of exemplifies this. It's like it would make someone go into a dangerous situation and give so much of themselves to come back and let someone else determine what the value of that was and how much of it you are able to have for yourself after you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all in this, under the guise of, this is the safe thing to do. You know, I do the thinking for you. I tell you what's best for you. I tell you what your time and energy is worth. And I think sometimes people feel really comfortable in the not thinking, which is very interesting to think about. But it's just kind of
Yeah.
the way that it works. Like people like the idea of feeling um, safe than being free, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You've hit it on the head there. You know, I am I'm so fortunate to have both experiences. So I can absolutely align with, you know, and understand the mindset of when you're doing a 9 to 5. The reasons why I did it were purely because, the industry was going upside down, and at the time I didn't have the foresight to say no. Think, dig a little deeper. It'll help you think differently and more creatively. And on the other side of that is the reward. Like at the time, I just wasn't there because I just had so much going on.
mhm,
But what happens is once you do that and you enter this process of a 9 to 5, is what I call it. It's really a process.
mhm,
You start to anchor your value on things like job titles, what relationships you have within certain companies, um, winning certain battles and meetings and stuff, how you're perceived, all things that take you far away from yourself,
mhm,
you know?
mhm,
Whereas artistry is the game of bringing you closer to yourself.
mhm,
So, uh, I, I'm never going back to that 9 to 5 stuff because I want to do the thing that enriches and enhances me as a person and my life. And more importantly, how I impact people.
mhm.
You know, like there's nothing, I don't know if you've had these moments, but I've certainly had them where you're playing a piece of music and somebody's on the dance floor looking at you and crying.
Yeah.
Or you're having a very strong conversation, but musically.
Mhm,
So without words,
mhm,
there's there's nothing that could like there's nothing that can replace the value of that and how it enhances my life and the lives of others.
yeah.
So I want to be doing the thing that brings me closer to myself, that enables me to do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
just have
crazy,
to.
right?
Yeah, no, I know exactly this feeling. I know what it like. You know, sometimes I go and I read the comments of videos. Like someone will post a video of one of my songs, and I'll just read the comments. And to know that you've had like an effect on someone, or like they have major events of their lives like tied into your music, or it helped them through a bad situation, or you know, or just the even in the moment, like sometimes I'm just playing for one person, like even it could be a crowded venue, but I'm looking at this one person, and I'm trying to keep them dancing. I want to keep that smile on their face. You know what I
Totally.
mean? And so it's a really really like an amazing feeling that yeah, I totally, yes, absolutely, I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking
it's almost euphoric in a sense,
about.
and we haven't even gotten on to how it enhances our lives on a daily basis. Like I don't, it's these conversations that remind me of my motivation to do what it is I'm doing on a daily basis, and it's powerful. I can't get this from a 9 to 5, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And again, I'm not talking down on a 9 to 5. I think you know everything that's here is serving a purpose for someone. My experience with a 9 to 5 served a different purpose, which was to push me into this. And it's not, and it's not even um, economical necessarily. Because here's the interesting thing about economics versus artistry. Before the hit, I think it was back in December, and I just sort of made a note to myself. I said, "Geez, I've made more in one night doing what I love to do than I would have made burning 80 hours over 2 weeks into a 9 to 5 that I had."
mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I took that moment. I sat down in my hotel room. I was in was it San Francisco? I was somewhere, and I sat down and just said, "Wow,
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it."
Yeah,
And I think it's very important, especially for artists now. We who are having the difficulty of, is my integrity or my values going to be corrupted through this technology stuff? And the answer couldn't be any different. It's the complete opposite. It's the technology that enables you to free yourself.
right,
Like,
right.
uh, so once you realize that, like this whole conversation happening, like, I mean, we were label mates on Stickman. Um, I couldn't have imagined having this kind of conversation with you after picking up your record and knowing the power of it. So anyway, it's
Yeah,
you just got to embrace the change and uh, and have enough faith in your vision with disciplined commitment that it'll work out.
yes, yes.